This is Nerdarchy Snubs with Nerdarchy.com for Nerds by Nerds. We've got Asa Kenny and Nathan Rice from DGs and ZOE here. We're live from ZOECon, and Asa, you want to kick us off here?
I don't have an opening question, so no, I do not.
That is a first for you. Okay, so Nathan, like I heard from you, you've been in pretty much everything that ZOE has done and whatnot. The question is, how did you get started with them? Like, what was your basis of that?
I mean, I was sort of there at the genesis. We originally made Demon Hunters not as dead gentlemen, but as a group of students on campus who said, let's make a movie. That sounds kind of fun. Here's an idea. We'll poke fun at things on campus that we think are ridiculous, and we'll have fun doing it.
And that was PLU, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so out of that, we said, hey, that was kind of fun, and even though we had no idea what we're doing, parts of it turned out pretty well. We should do that again. And then that's kind of how DG started to get formed.
Cool. Now, where do you want to take DG and whatnot if you had control, if you were the dungeon master, if you will? Where's the future with Nathan Rice and DG and all that?
I mean, at this point, I'm happy just to have consistent roles that are awesome. But I mean, Journey Quest and the gamers both have to have their conclusion. I still have a love for the Demon Hunters property. I don't think we've actually been able to really tackle it since we learned what we're doing, which we definitely didn't know when we tried it the first time. So I think going back, and I think it just needs a relaunch if we do anything with it, actually. But I think that's a property with a lot of teeth to it, and we just need to bring it back and start it the right way, as opposed to kind of going every which way because we were learning as we did it.
With a relaunch, would you say like a film similar to the gamers or whatnot, or would you want it in shorts like Journey Quest?
I mean, I think... So that property has taken so many different forms. Demon Hunters, we've had scripts to be like, let's relaunch as a web series. No, let's just do a continuing movie from the old one where we recap the old one. Wait, what if instead... it's just... So it has options. I think it could work episodically. I think it could work as a relaunched movie. So that doesn't really answer your question to say which do I prefer, just rather to say it has a lot of different directions it could be presented, and I'm happy for whichever one works best that we can actually do.
We'll see where the...
So the music videos.
Yes, yes. Those will probably go over well.
I have not seen any music videos. Is that something I missed?
No, thankfully.
I love the musical number that was worked into Journey Quest, and hearing about how that was produced and everything was just fantastic. Speaking of which, your role as the gargoyle Roderick,
yes,
like without a doubt, it is one of my favorite roles you've done for ZOE and DG and whatnot. Do you ever find yourself slipping up in the whole talking backward or meaning the opposite thing?
Only when I'm trying to improv something. Because it's a script. So, and while they do say, like, they kind of want some improv on set, for the most part you have to do what's in the script. So I can read my lines and go, okay, that's my line. And then know that going into the scene. But sometimes when I'm having to improv and the more complicated the idea is, I'm trying to speak and think it at the same time, and so I'm like, okay, I have to do the negative of this, and then I think of what that is, and then my mind's still trying to get the negative, so then I reverse the negative again a couple times, and then...
Could you give an example of what was an improv that made it into the show?
So in the beginning of season 2, in the first scene where Glorian busts down the door with the monster support group and kills everybody, and says, oh, you need some clothes, here you go. And I say, I know exactly what to do with these. Like, yeah.
You don't know do this.
Yeah. He spent his whole life in a loincloth on a pedestal.
Right.
Yeah.
I just assumed that you always speak in lies to begin with, so it's just natural, right?
Oh, me personally?
You personally.
No. My lies are much more subtle than Roderick's.
Okay.
That shirt looks great on you. No.
Thank you.
Well, he does kind of match the Muppet thing, just a little bit.
No.
Which one is back? Now I'm confused. I feel like, yeah.
one of us speaks all truth and the other one speaks lies.
Right.
There you go.
Which is it going to be?
And we both
I
said your
trust
shirt is
Chris.
great.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Chris, how does my
Never
shirt look?
opinion?
Excellent.
Okay. See, it looks good.
So, I know you played multiple roles in like the gamers, where you were the both Lodge and Sir Osric, I
Mhm.
believe it was. Did you have any time where you were having issues keeping which hat you were wearing, so to speak?
No, we mostly filmed them entirely separately. So everything at the game table was filmed, then everything in the fantasy world. So there was no time where we were kind of hopping back between the two.
And the moment where you took over the monk,
Yeah.
how did that come about? Because that was just so random.
I mean, it was in the script from the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, that, he'd fumble and that, Lodge would get to take over Silence and F around with him because he was like, screw you for screwing with my game. I'm going to make your guy look silly and do
Revenge
things.
is mine.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. But I will admit the first time I saw that over at Comic Book Inc. in Tacoma, I didn't catch. It might have been the lighting, but I didn't catch that it was you as Silence there. And then
I've been told that a few times.
yeah, when
It's
I got
interesting.
when I got the DVD, I'm like, wait a minute, how did I not catch that? And then the outtakes with the whole Budweiser.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that part. We actually use that joke pretty much every time we go out to the bar.
Oh,
But,
that's fantastic, yeah.
yeah. Budweiser, the less you want it, the better it tastes.
I was proud of that one.
Yeah. So was that improv?
Yeah.
Or, awesome.
I mean, it was semi-improv. What often will happen is someone will get an idea to do something on set, and often they'll tell somebody to be like, hey, keep the camera rolling. I'm going to do something cool. Or what you could think is cool. I'm sure there's a lot of it that isn't actually cool and doesn't make it into the outtakes reel. But this one, I was kind of like, I don't know, I just had an idea. I was like, I don't know why, I think it's funny, I'm going to do it. And so I said, hey, Matt, keep rolling on this one.
Now that leads to something. I've heard this a few times from various camps, various ways. Who's the worst one out of you and Christian when it comes to trying to break the scene, trying to improv, or just go nuts?
I would say it's Christian. It may have been me before, but it's not anymore, I think. I think there's a point at which I stopped doing that, at least trying to do it in the middle of the scene. I usually try and save it for the end when they can cut out whatever I just added if they decide they don't like it, so they can continue. That's not always true. That's not universally true. But I mean, especially on these sets, there is actually a lot of encouragement to go ahead and just try something. And if it's improvisational and not exactly in the script, awesome. And they'll usually tell you like, okay guys, we're short on time. This one we just need to get straight. We just need to get this in the can and move on. And so then you don't do that. But if things are going well, and I mean, with time, there's also learning, like, working with the company, like, when is this appropriate to do? And a lot of that, is just came about. Some people basically have said, well, we watch what everyone else does before we figure out when we can go ahead and improv in the middle of a scene. So I think people just come in and kind of watch the people who've been goofing off, basically, because it is that kind of environment on set for these films. That is not normal for a film set. Normally there is not go ahead and goof off, although with comedies sometimes they'll have stuff like that. But yeah, normally it's like, okay, get the shot, move on, get the shot, move on.
Sure, money is the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in Gamers and you're in Journey Quest. What other projects are you involved? Well, and Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
What other projects are you involved in, rather, or would you like to get involved with what's coming down the line so far?
I was really early on, really early on, involved in some of the Strowler's development. And then just events happened, and I had other things, and I couldn't make it to most of the development. We're talking I was in the first 2% of the process, but that was actually really enjoyable, and it is such a good property. I would love to be able to get involved in that, even just in a development capacity.
Well, it's an open world. You can just make
Yeah.
your own story.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically with the one Ben
Yeah,
is.
we
Ben
can
is
have
doing.
like Nathan Rice Productions or something.
I don't think we want that.
No.
The world is not ready.
It might be a little too much power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with the Strahlers, would you want to, like, which hat would you want to wear? Would you want to be the director? Would you want to be an actor or the writer?
Oh, for sure, an actor or developer, probably both. So I mean, the development is usually kind of part of the writing team, even though they may not actually be the writer. At least with the way we run it. So.
Yeah.
No, I did an interview a while back with Matt Vansel, and I asked him this question. I think it would be a fun one to ask you, which is, of all the properties that are out recently or about to come out, which one, out of the big budgets and whatnot, where would you want to land yourself if you had just free reign to be in part of anything?
How do you mean?
Well, like, Matt wanted to be part of Star Trek.
Oh, that's easy, Star Wars. I've been a Star Wars fan since for absolute ever. Growing up, like I knew I couldn't be, but I know in the back of my head I was like, I'm gonna be a Jedi when I grow up. What the hell is this like job crap? Like, I want to have a lightsaber and go out and do Jedi things. So obviously I want to be a Jedi.
It's been a dream for most of us. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I think so. But yeah, I've always very much been in love with that property. I know I'm not even remotely alone in that.
Yeah, kind of with you on that one.
Yeah, so yeah.
So this is more specific to Zombie Orphans, but the other night there was the quiz, the question and answer, the quiz, or God damn it, what is it called?
Trivia?
The trivia. There
Oh,
you
okay.
go. It was the trivia. How much of that was your specific, like your questions that you came up with, and how much is
All of it
just
was
clever?
questions Brian and I came up with.
Okay, because that fit a large gamut of nerd knowledge.
Oh yeah. We each got to choose our, the 3 rounds he read were the 3 rounds he came up with the questions for, and the rounds I read were the rounds I came up with the questions for.
Okay, I had fun with that because I was checking in about halfway through and so tired. And I'm like, all right, what do I actually know? 1 in every 4 questions.
I'm really sorry I missed that.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
thank you.
I had to work my day job in order to,
Yeah.
got those bills.
Yeah.
Should have just went with the Jedi option.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, I'm
What the
regretting
hell
it
is
all still to
Yep.
this day. Yeah.
This interview would be so much different if we all just went well, Chris would have gone Sith.
Kind of, yeah. He is wearing the Takesis amulet.
Oh, there you go.
Could just be like, you do not need me to pay rent. Now, that being said, if DG or Zoe, actually, that brings me to a different question. For the common person who is just coming into this and everything, what is the difference between DG and Zoe?
So Dead Gentleman was the original company that we started when we were doing Demon Hunters and then the Gamers. Zoe is the company that Ben made because there were some structural issues with Dead Gentleman as a company that were great early on, but as time went on, just made it difficult to do certain things. So Ben said, it's going to be almost impossible to make DG work as a company, so I'm going to start my own company. And DG at that point sort of converted from being a filmmaking company slowly into being a brand. So it was the brand of the Demon Hunters and Gamers style humor. And actually, Zoe recently incorporated DG. So Dead Gentleman is now not a separate entity. It's owned by Zoe.
Oh, okay.
So-
Cool, man.
Which is sort of where it was going anyway. So.
So I'm going to make our articles easier on
Yeah.
that one.
Right.
You can just do Zoe, or a lot of people do Zodge. ZOE.
Zodge. That sounds like a Kryptonian villain.
Yeah.
Kneel
Right.
before Zodge.
Well,
So, all right. So, obviously, y'all are gamers and whatnot. What's the current game that's got your eye?
Just discovered Starfinder. Kind of fun.
all right.
Really?
Kind of fun. Yeah. I was skeptical when I just heard about the concept, but then I checked it out. I read through the book. Someone offered to run a short session. I was like, this is really fun. I'm going to do it.
So, what are you playing?
I'm playing a Yosoki operative.
Oh lordy, you're
So-
playing the same thing as my fiance.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, she incorporated a bunch of piercings on the inside of her cheek pouches
That's funny.
and hooked the rings to all her grenades because she's also got soldier levels. With
Oh,
these-
so she just reaches
with
in
the-
and throws a grenade out of her mouth?
No, she just voids them all at once, pulling all the pins at once.
Huh.
Giant explosive puking rat.
Oh man.
That's a new one.
Yeah,
That's a new one.
yeah. It's she came up with that, and I was just like, what?
It'll work, trust me.
Yeah, the Vesk tore the top off a tank, and she kind of got squeezed, and it just worked.
Sounds awful.
It does.
It won the day, but
I'm sure it did.
they did that, and I'm just like, that's why I'm marrying her.
Found a good one, obviously. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And by the way, she's a ZOE fan.
Oh,
so,
good.
You know,
As she should be.
it was kind of weird. We were on day 2, and she's like, "Have you heard of the Gamers?" No, I haven't.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool moment. But anyway, it sounds like we're good. Good.
I think so.
All right.
Any closing questions?
No. I mean, well, what's your favorite gamers movie?
Oh, that hits close to what I
First
asked.
episode. Specifically gamers, because that's where I came in. And I'm catching up now.
Huh. That's tough. Might have to go with Darkness Rising.
All right.
Yeah.
See, that was my favorite as well. But I came in and I watched the first 2, and then I stopped gaming for a while because I moved and adopted children and had life
There you
just
go,
be
yeah.
wild. And then started getting back into gaming again and started hooking up with Nerdarchy things. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, Gamers 3," and I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm like way behind on this stuff."
Yeah, I
So-
think Darkness, I got to do the most Osric, and that's
Yeah.
fun to do. So, Osric's a lot of fun.
I still crack up at the whole like flip the hair back, glint.
So
yeah,
why don't you wear that hair all the time?
I don't know.
because bald is beautiful.
That's right.
All right.
I say as I hide it under my hat.
Yeah.
I-
Well, you
I
have to
don't-
wear the ears as well to really
Yeah.
pull off the beauty about
Yeah,
it. So.
I'm kind of going the opposite route. My fiance's convinced me to grow my hair out, and so I'm going Viking under my hat.
Oh, there you go.
but
Yeah.
Trying to look professional today.
Keeps it warm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so any chance we can get you to sign off with us? We sign off every Nerdarchy video with Stay Nerdy.
All right.
So 3, 2, 1.
Stay nerdy.
I'm expecting